Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you have your own song that you would like to submit for special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's request comes at us from Taylor. Hey Bryan, I've got lots of songs I would love for you to hear, but I think I've settled on one. This probably ranks as one of, if not my favorite songs. Lover's End Part 3, Skellefteå Serenade by Moon Safari. 24 minutes of classic prog rock with incredible vocal harmony work. I love everything about this band, and all of their work will leave you with a bittersweet feeling of nostalgia for your hometown, childhood, old flames, etc. Hope you enjoy it, and I have a feeling I might be making more special requests in the future. So let's dive into this. We have Lover's End Part 3 from Moon Safari. We got 24 minutes ahead of us. Grab some water, get a snack, get ready to dive in. Yeah, just a real cozy vibe. Yeah, the glockenspiel right there is just making this feel real cozy. Yeah, so the bass alternating downbeats and offbeats. Yeah. Yeah, we're in a 7 as well. It's interesting that the bass, its syncopated idea is also being replicated in a guitar off to the side now. The drums are beginning to emphasize the offbeats on the second bar as well. Why does this part remind me of like an 80s sitcom intro? Nostalgia is a very good word for this song. Really interesting bringing in this new idea that we haven't heard yet while not really changing up anything in the foundational element. There's something about the guitar tone too. Very familiar. Can't really put my thumb on it though. Yeah, I love how the bass fills us in. Yeah, the bass comes in at the second half, or at the latter half of the second bar, with these really nice, like almost like fills, little licks at the end of the passage. You know what's interesting too is that the emotion, the visual emotion I'm getting from this is like a hazy memory. Really interesting. Bringing back this rhythmic idea, but with a bit more bite this time. We brought 4/4 into the picture for the first time, I think. Not for long, and I think the final one was actually a 9. You know, it might have been a 5. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in that fourth bar of that. I do love the strings in that section though, just really floating over everything. Yeah. Bringing in a bit of tension here. Disrupting that nostalgia upliftingness that we've heard since the beginning. But resolving it, right? That's interesting.
Under the cold light of the street lamp, he walks alone, the original super tramp. King of the stings, mayor of madness. It gets us all in the end in this part of the world.
Gorgeous harmonies.
If you could see us now, 5 years have passed since your last bike ride. Cities outsourced and the factories shutting down. Culture's been boiled down to a chorus.
I love listening to where they decide to hold the syllables out and when they decide to like run by them.
you now. In this town, the only movement is by the driftwood down the river. That everyone and everything is drowning the day.
And back to the 7. I wonder what's so important about the 7.
To all the friends that couldn't stay. To those that
Even this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. It's a slower 7. It almost feels halftime from where we were, but we're still in 7.
the sky's covered in fire, no I'm The chicken meat and all the punks meet out on the porch where we're all just rubber feet. Burning the streets just like a wildfire. You better burn all your maps to get out of this trap. All rubber feet, our home has lost its soul. All rubber feet, no heroes in this just show. When autumn falls down like a curtain,
I love this part.
so quite uncertain, the dream postponed just weighs you down. Face it, my friend, you are stuck in this lonely town.
So much of this song just feels like it was pulled right out of the 80s.
Cheers to all the ones I wished away. For years I said goodbye to this old town. The sky's covered in fire, now I'm done.
Ooh, getting a little spicy. Love that. Almost got a little bit of like an electrified bluegrass vibe. Yeah, nice little expectation subversion, presenting us with the same transition idea we did last time, but quickly moving in a different direction. I think this is the first time we've entered into a 3. We're in 3/4 right now. very warm, rich atmosphere for this piano to be sitting within. Not where I thought they were going to take that. It's a little bittersweetness in here, but it's a lot more uplifting than I thought we were going. We were really hinting, well, that's the second time though that they've hinted at some more instability in the chordal ideas and then quickly shifted away.
I heard you're leaving the city, you're heading back north. For years I have waited for you to come home, but my bags, they are all packed and I'm close.
Once again, a really strong bass lead right here.
And the songs I gave you don't mean a thing anymore. You know that I love you, you know that it's true. You know that I love you, you know that I do. You know that I love you, you know that it's true. You know that I love you, you know that I love you. Love you.
Yeah, we have a little bit of call and response there. Oh, so we're moving on. Yeah, so that do-do-do-do that the guitar's doing, it was being harmonized, but the harmonization was switching sides with different instruments.
Catch your face, but you're lost in the crowd. You know that I love you, you know that it's true. You know that I love you, you know that I do. You know that I love you, you know that it's true. You know that I love you, you know that I love you. Love you.
Those moments, man. Kinda wish there were more of them. Bringing back this 7 idea from the beginning. Interestingly, it was the bass and drums that did it, and now the vocals are in on this rhythmic passage. Ooh, converting that to dotted quarters. Once again, hitting the 3. It's a rare occurrence. I wonder if it means anything.
For one final act, a bitter kiss of
And this has like a country vibe to it. It's really interesting to hear country and bluegrass have such an influence on. This is Christmas music. What song is that? Hear the bells? That's the lyrics that are coming to mind. And this is the same way that it opened. Different vibe, or sorry, yeah, different vibe, but similar instrumentation. Classical guitar, there's glockenspiels, full orchestra, not, but that shift to the triplets was clean. And that, oh man, that shift there at the end, the slight key shift. Yeah, it kind of removed the bitterness out of it, and it's I hate that this is going to be my first my first thing that I say. after having listened to this, but I mean, talk about a cliched finale. Bright, uplifting chord progressions underneath a beautifully harmonized group vocal thing with a guitar solo on top of it. Like, holy queen. Um, and that just immediately made me think of the ending to Black Parade, which again was inspired by Queen as well. But just that whole idea is, I mean, it's done, it's executed phenomenally. Like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm being overly harsh on them for doing it. Like, there's a reason that it's a stereotype. There, it's a very effective way to finish out a very large song and make it feel bombastic, and it works. Like, it is a very effective section in this song. I love the way it comes together. It's beautiful. It's just like as soon as I heard it, my brain went to like 50 other songs that have done that. Probably just because I haven't heard something like that in a while. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Like I said, I kind of hate that that was the first thing I'm gonna say, or I did say at the end of this. I do have a lot of praise for this group though. Um, though it's not all going to be praise. I'm not going to tell anybody they're not correct in enjoying this song. It does a lot of things right, and even songs that don't do things right. If you enjoy them, that's on you. I'm not going to tell you that there's a wrong way to listen to or even make music. But there are some things in here that personally for me just did not they did not really work. And maybe it might make more sense once I dig into the lyrics because this song, I mean, yeah, this song is very lyric heavy. For a prog rock epic, I usually expect a lot of instrumental sections, and there really were not many here. We had a couple of instrumental interludes. On the shorter side, we had two guitar solos, we had a piano interlude, and I mean that's really it. There was a lot of words in here. I'm not really looking forward to the lyrical analysis because it's going to be a lot of reading. So with that said, let's let's dive into this and see what's going on. I think the first thing really worth looking at, which I think is the most important aspect here, is emotion, vibe. Like, how does this song make you feel? For me, it hits this very strange nostalgia for something that I shouldn't have nostalgia for. Like, was it Taylor? Yeah, Taylor said that their works leave you with a bittersweet feeling of nostalgia. And I mean, I agree with that, but for me, it leaves me with a nostalgia for specifically the 80s for some reason. And there was a couple of sections, like I mentioned during the thing, that kind of give me like this 80s sitcom opening theme vibe, like a full house kind of thing going on. And I don't know why. There wasn't anything in particular about the chord progression or the way the vocals were going at the time or the instrumentation that really made me think of that. But that's immediately where my mind went both times that section came around. A lot of the guitar lines, the chord progressions used, I don't know why it makes me think of the 80s, and not like 80s pop, which was like that synthwave kind of stuff. Um, like not that. Something jazz from the 80s maybe, or maybe rock jazz fusion from the 80s. I'm not quite sure. And like I was born at the tail end. I don't have any memories of the 80s at all. So I don't know how I could have a nostalgia for this. I have listened to the music of the era, but I wouldn't really say any of it is my favorite. There's definitely some hits from the 80s that I enjoy, but I can't really say that I have any sort of wanting to go back to the 80s. I don't really have a nostalgia for it. So it's very interesting that this song can make me have those feelings for that period of time that before I listened to the song, I don't think I really had. it's it's kind of bizarre. I'm curious what everybody else felt like listening to this. What did it make you think of? Did it make you nostalgic for anything? If so, what was it? Hit me up in the comments because maybe I'm misplacing it. Maybe it might be like something related to 80s music, but not necessarily 80s music. And the thing is, like, I have specific sounds for each genre, but they're very, like, singular, right? To me, 90s music was angry and angsty, and that's because I associate 90s rock and grunge with the 90s, even though that's not entirely totally encompassing of the 90s at all. Like, the 90s brought about a lot of different sounds, and it's not fair that I would attribute just one genre's contribution, but that's what I feel like the 90s are musically. They're very aggressive, very angsty. It was that kind of era, even though that's just one genre that really popped up then. So it could be that, when I think of 80s, I tend to think of, synthesizers, right? Very specific sounds of synthesizers, very specific types of electronic drumming, and I have a sound for it, but that's not everything that encompasses it. And maybe somebody else can really pinpoint what I'm feeling right now, what kind of music I'm really thinking about. Maybe when someone says it, it'll be like, oh, that's the one. So, but it does make me feel this longing for a younger time. And I don't know what that younger time is. Just not now, which is really, it's not hard for any song to make me want to not be now. Um, but yeah, so it's just kind of bonkers how it does. I think part of it is just that it borrows a lot of music from past eras and combines them in many different ways. I don't know when this came out. The band formed in '03. Oh, maybe that not 80s, 60s. 60s. That makes a lot more sense. And see, yeah, now we're start. Okay, so my grandmother used to listen to a lot of stuff from the 60s. And that's kind of what, yeah, so like I said, childhood, but I couldn't figure out what, like a pastime. I think that's it. Childhood, listening to some of the music that my grandmother used to put on. And yeah, and see the chord progressions are coming into focus now. The types of vocal harmonies. Yeah, not the 80s, the 60s, which again, I certainly have no memories of the 60s, and I really don't have much of a musical metric for 60s music. All right, the 70s I'm slowly starting to piece together and figure out, what influenced what. You guys are helping me out with that, especially looking at prog rock, which is mostly the 70s stuff I've checked out so far. But for the 60s, I got nothing. Like, I know the music that my grandparents listened to. Don't know what year it came out. I rarely know the names of tracks or bands. It's just one of those things that it pops up. I'm like, oh, I think I've heard this before, but I have no idea. And yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, ooh, man, what a rush. Okay, I'm gonna have to dwell on that a bit later on. We got to get on with this analysis. Um, Thinking about this, it's gonna bring me to tears. My grandmother passed a long time ago, and I haven't thought about the music she used to play for us for a long time. And just like this rush of not like bands or songs, but just kind of like musical ideas that just kind of stick with you. Like, oh, one song though, "Achy Breaky Heart," man. is that Elvis Presley, I think? Used to play that all the time. I don't know if she had a cassette or might have had a vinyl of it. I don't even know. Just, oh man, we used to listen to that all the time. All right, focus back on this. All right, time signature. We're gonna move on to stuff a little bit more technical, so I can get my brain off of this for a moment. Time signature is really interesting in here. A lot of this song is in 7, 7/4, 7/8. I don't know. I don't care. Our phrasings are in groups of 7. We occasionally dip into a 6. And that's pretty much it. We bounce back and forth between grouping of 7. Oh, and 4. Right? There are a couple of times. Oh, no, not 6. 7 and 4. That's what we jump back and forth between. And what I think is interesting about those is that 7, especially for the sections that I think we could count in 7/8, is basically 4/4 with 1/8 note taken off out of a 2-bar phrase. So the first bar is complete 4/4. The second bar loses an eighth note, loses half of a beat. That's it. When we look at 7/4, which I do think a lot of the sections land in, we have 1 bar of 4/4 and 1 bar of 3/4. So we've lost a whole beat out of the second bar. So a lot of the song feels like it's missing something. We're always in this 7. It always feels like it lurches forward before it's ready to. And that's because we're missing a beat. And this nostalgia could also be reinterpreted as a longing for something in our past. And I wonder if this longing is creating an emptiness in the lyrics somewhere, and they feel like they're missing a part of themselves, or they're missing something. They're not complete though. They're not whole, and something's missing in their life or whatever. And I think that's why a lot of this has that bittersweetness, because it's not necessarily downtrodden. It's sort of just an acceptance of that's how life is. There's one line in here said, I tried to call you, but I had too much pride. So now you're just a face that's lost in the crowd or something like that. That doesn't rhyme, so maybe that wasn't exactly what he said. But yeah, something along those lines, right? And I wonder if there's a friendship or a relationship that could have been or should have been but wasn't. And this person obviously has kind of been stuck on that. It's that I should have called you and I didn't. So to me, that says that this person has kind of kept that on their mind all these years, and it could be that they think that that's the piece missing from their life or something like that. And I think that's what dictates a lot of the 7/8 here. When we get to 4/4, it typically is paired with happier moments. The bittersweet is gone, and it really is just the sweet in a lot of these 4/4 sections, and that's because our time signature has become complete. Maybe in these sections of the song, the narrator feels that their life is more complete. So we get a shift in tone, we get a shift in time signature. But there are a couple of moments of 3/4. And there's two main ideas that pop about when the 3/4 comes in. One is that we tend to err into a lot more instability chordally, so we have more dissonance. It is a lot more sorrowful the first 2 times we do 3/4. The third time we bring in 3/4 is when the Christmas song starts. I don't know what it is, but it's that da-da-da, da-da-da. That motif shows up every time in like the last 5 minutes that we enter the 3 section. And it reminds me of the hear the bells, hear them something, I don't know the next word. And it's a Christmas song, right? And why is that popping up here? But yeah, it shows up in like the last 4 or 5 minutes of the track during that section. And to me, that's the Christmas section of the song. And I don't know if that's what they wanted, but that's what it feels like to me. Which kind of makes me recontextualize some of the other parts of the song and makes me look at some of how the song evolves, and like if this is winter that we end the song in, did we start in spring? And trying to look at this. And wouldn't you know it, some of those more downtrodden 3/4 sections show up in the middle quarter of the song, which would be the autumn section. Oh man, is something, is this a thing? Right before that, it's super. I mean, we hear a lot of the 4/4. It's a brighter, more optimistic section. Is that summer? Like, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait until we get into the lyrics. But is this a seasonal song? Is this song split into four quarters with a season devoted to each of them and really laying into the ideas of them? I don't know. All I know is that the ending is Christmas, and that's the immediately where my brain goes. In a 25-minute song, if you spent the last 5 minutes on a wintry thing going on, what does that mean for the rest of it? Was it an accident? Is it correlated? That's where my brain goes with that kind of stuff. So yeah, time signature plays a really strong part, at least to me, in tying some of these musical ideas together. And oh, I forgot to talk about. So 3/4 is a lot like 7, except we don't have a bar of completion to contrast with the bar of incompletion. Like I said, in 7/8, you have a bar of 4/4, and then you have a bar of 3/4. Or that'd be 7/4. Anyways, though, you have a bar of 4 and then a bar of 3. So you're missing a piece at the end, and you constantly jump back and forth between complete and incomplete, complete and incomplete. So that kind of shows some of the bittersweetness. There is a bit of completion there, but there is some incompletion there. The 3/4 is completely incomplete. However, the interesting thing about 3/4 is that it feels very stable, probably because it's triangular. Triangles have 3 points, or so. I think the triangle is the sturdiest shape we can make in architecture, if I remember correctly. So there is stability in 3/4, even though it is basically 4/4 with a lacking beat. But it's always paired, well, except for the end with the Christmas bit. But aside from that, it's paired with more sorrowful, heavier emotion sections. And it makes me wonder if the narrator is completely incomplete at this moment. Instead of a bouncing back and forth, we are always lurching forward. We are always in a state of not having that 4/4 wholeness. So instead of the bittersweet, we get rid of the sweet. We were just in a bitter section. And I don't know. Like I said, we're going to have to dive into the lyrics and see what's going on with some of this stuff. But I can't believe it's just a coincidence that the time signature changes are always paired with emotional changes, with atmospheric changes. Now, I want to talk about the vocals because they are phenomenal, right? So we have our main vocalist, gorgeous voice, beautiful vibrato, and just, you can tell, well, I get the feeling that, let me put it that way. I get the feeling that he's professionally trained. He can just hit these notes perfectly every time for 25 minutes and then just has this beautifully controlled vibrato to put on the end of it. And it is masterful, right? So we have that, and then we have a couple other vocalists. I don't remember if any of them do isolated vocals, but we do have groups of up to 4 that provide harmonies. And these harmonies are gorgeous. I can't tell you about the other vocalists' ability to hit a note spot on. Can't really hear it in the harmony. You got a lot of textures and timbres that are overlapping, but I mean, just the way that these chords come into play on the vocals and the way that we get these micro movements where like the third highest note might move down or up a half step to change the chordal quality within like everybody else holding out these notes. Like it is some gorgeous stuff. I would love to hear an acapella, probably not a 25-minute acapella, but 2, 3, 4, 5 minute acapella song for Moon Safari, because their vocalists They got it. They do. And every single one of them was gorgeous. Um, yeah, let's go to the guitar solo because this was, in my opinion, a very well executed guitar solo. Um, we had a start, we had a finish, and we just had forward momentum of movement linearly from start to finish. And it was just, I love the way that he holds out. Oh, that's something else I meant to talk about in the vocals. The melody writing, I guess, just in general, right? They do this phenomenal job of allowing their melodies to breathe. Occasionally, they'll do some faster notes. We saw at the end in the final guitar solo that we got more of a rock edge to it. We got some showmanship to it. We got some really nice sweep picking, and maybe not sweep picking. We did get faster picking though. That was going all over, rising in pitch, lowering in pitch. Might not necessarily been sweeping, but was certainly playing a bit faster and utilizing a wide range of notes rather than just staying on a single string and playing a bunch of notes that are next to each other. Um, and we paired that with these long held out notes with this really nice vibrato on them. Uh, you know, just bending the string up and down a little bit to get just that extra little wah 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 wah, that nice little vibrato out of it, and having silence in a guitar solo, which is just mind blowing in rock music. I don't know why this is a thing. I feel like I don't know if it's something to do with the genre or the musicians in the genre, but you just don't ever hear a guitarist stop playing during a solo. It feels like they have to constantly keep playing. The only way that they can have a breath or a moment of relaxation is to hold a note out. And I absolutely love that this guitarist takes the time to stop the strings from vibrating and allow a moment, right? This is something that happens a lot in jazz and classical because we have aerophones. We have instruments that require the user to breathe. The musician has to take a moment to take a breath, which means the music has to stop. And finding a way to implement the rests into your melodic flow is one of the things that dictates a good soloist versus a bad soloist. Really knowing how to utilize the definition of music, combinations of sound and silence. And rock soloists just don't use the silence part. It's all sound for them. So it was really, really nice to hear some gaps in the playing. Really, having the guitar stop playing, stop the strings from vibrating, and putting, a quarter note rest every once in a while, just to really allow a little bit more pacing to the experience of the guitar solo and just the storytelling of the melody overall. And like I said, it's not to say that that's the only thing they did. At the end of the song, they went to more of a rock style solo and were doing a little bit of shredding in there. Did not hear as many breaks. But in that middle solo, like 11 minutes in, 15 minutes in, something like that, yeah, beautiful, gorgeous playing, right up my alley. And I like having the contrast. The soloist said, I can play a bit more of a jazzy style of solo, and I can play a bit more of a rock style solo, and just nailed both of them. Beautiful work. But yeah, that kind of applies to the melodic writing as a whole as well. A lot of these melodies have this really nice pacing to them, especially when you look at the vocal melodies. And I think I even mentioned this closer to the beginning of the song. When the vocalist decides to hold a note out or breathe, and when he decides to run through like 4 or 5 notes straight, in like eighth notes or something like that, and really having this pulse to the song by having this ebb and flow between holding notes out and speeding through them, and it creates this really nice sort of whimsical weaving kind of man, what's the word I want? It's just really relaxing, right? It creates this ebb and flow that you can just kind of fall into, and it just works. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to be a melody. It feels very natural, which is interesting because the emphasis that he puts on certain syllables is not natural. Holding out, most people don't talk and just hold out notes every once in a while. Like, it's a very unnatural thing to sing this way compared to spoken word, but it feels natural in the context of the song. And it's just, I mean, it all just comes together. The melody writing as a whole. And even the harmonic writing, which is pretty much going to be comprised of chords. There's chords all throughout this song. Almost every section has some sort of chordal movement sitting underneath everything, and it is just, I love the way they go through them. Sometimes we do sit in the same 4 to 8 chord patterns, just keep cycling through them, but there are moments where we get these lifts where they will change up the chord progression or the key. Even I think in some spaces we do have a key change. There's also moments where we'll have a chord progression and then we'll make subtle variations to it. So like I had mentioned with the vocal harmonies, where maybe the third highest voice, everybody's holding out these whole notes, and then he kind of drops down a little bit or raises up a little bit and changes the chordal properties in the middle of the chord while everybody else continues to hold them out. We hear those things in the chordal structures in the strings as well. And they're placed all over the place. It's little ornamentations, right? We get the core chordal movement, and then like on the second or third repetition, we'll make some minor variations to it. Sometimes just to change things up, but other times to lead into new keys or new modes. And this group just has a phenomenal mastery over consonants, whether that's melodic ideas or harmonic ideas. They can just really lean into some beautiful writing. Now, there's something else I wanted to talk about, but I think we're going to have to move on to something that I don't think worked too well and come back to that. And that's going to be repetition. The first 10 minutes of this song are the same thing over and over. There are a couple of intermediate sections, but like 8 out of the first 10 minutes is that 7/8 vibe with the downbeat on the first half and the offbeat strikes on the second half that started in the bass, and then the guitar picked up and then the drums picked up, and by the end of the song the vocalist was doing it too. Like, it's a really cool motif. I like the rhythmic idea, and we did build on it. It's not like we had a single idea for the entire song. Strings came in and other guitars, and the bass was there. The drummer was doing some interesting things. So, we were adding layers. But that core foundation was present for a very, very long time. And I'm going to be honest, I was waiting for it to change. When we hit like the 10.5 minute mark and we shifted up the style, we hit that first sort of bittersweet section, and we had the first slightly rock guitar section. We got our first big moment of change, and change kept coming. I was relieved. We've been listening to, oddly enough, a lot of one section songs recently. So it's been on my mind, and that's kind of where I thought we were going. 24 minutes of this 1/7/8 section with some short intermediate moments between them, especially since it felt like the verse. It just felt like 5-minute verses. We had a 5-minute verse and then a little interlude, and then we returned to the 5-minute verse and then a little interlude, and I was like, this is going to be the whole song, and I don't know if I could take this for 20 minutes. And that, again, I don't want that comes off as sounding really bad, but I'm not a big fan of repetition. I'm not. I need forward momentum and contrasting and dynamic elements. Like, that's what I really love to listen to, especially critically, right? Because my brain is looking for new things to analyze and think about, and if everything's the same, then I'm in the wrong mindset for it, which is a problem I've run into a couple of times in the past with stuff like post rock or anything experimental that really sticks, like Swans specifically. Looking at Swans from this week actually, yeah, where they really stick into a same idea for like 10, 15 minutes, and it's more about feeling your way through it. And I'm coming at it, intellectually trying to listen for new things and contextualize them, and just nothing new happens. So my brain's actively engaged with nothing to think about. And sometimes I do get a little bored in things like that. And, it's my fault. I'm coming at it from the wrong perspective, but it also is the format of the channel. So I am trying to get a little better about becoming more emotionally involved in songs, especially once I've realized that they're going for more of that emotional angle. But yeah, so when we hit the 10-minute mark though, and things started getting progressively more diverse and dynamic, I had a little bit of a sigh of relief. But those first 10 minutes, they were interesting. They were beautifully done. Like, I don't want to diminish anything of what they did, but I was getting a little wary of of that one idea, and I'm glad that they did change that up. So again, that's like the only negative criticism I really have for them, but at the same time, it's also kind of on me. I was expecting something that they weren't bringing to the table. I'd say that that's on me, right? That's my fault. Speaking of, though, I adore the strings, right? So I mentioned they have these intermediate parts. And so we have these prog rock style choruses or verses, and then these string sections. And these string sections have some. I think this was always when the strings come up. Ooh, they're hitting something spicy. They're bringing in some spicy chords. Yeah, they were really going to some really interesting chord progressions in these sections. They were introducing some really dynamic situations atmospherically. But the thing is that they were always so short-lived so that they could get back to the prog rock stuff, which had more simplified chordal stuff. I don't know if that's because the musicians find it easier to play or sing over the more simplistic chordal ideas. I don't know if it's because they have so many more layers in these sections. The string parts where they introduce some more interesting chordal stuff is also when it's just the string section. There's really nothing else around them. So they can really dig into something a bit more complex without having to worry about really figuring out how they're going to put so many instruments into something that could easily dissolve into dissonance when their overall tone is really going for something consonant. So there's a lot of reasons why they might have done it, but whatever the reason, I wish they would have stuck with them longer. I don't necessarily think we needed to have more of these ideas introduced into the core prog rock sections, but I would have loved to see these intermediate sections just stick around a hair bit longer. I feel like they weren't long enough. Every time we got into them, like, yes, this is gorgeous. I love where this is going. The emotions are super complex. Let's keep this up. Okay, we're moving on already. And every single time I was a bit disappointed coming out of them because they were so short. They were already done, especially when we would spend 5 minutes on the same idea and you bring in a new one that I think is phenomenally fresh and very pertinent to the emotion you're trying to tell, and we're out of it in 16 bars. We're there for like 40 seconds and we're already gone. And I'm just like, why? Because the strings are never not there. They're always providing the sound floor, right? They're providing a lot of the chordal structure for everything else. They just don't get to present the interesting chords that they do when we're in these larger moments. And since the larger moments make up a vast majority of the song, I feel like the strings kind of get underutilized. So yeah, I guess that's my second negative, and I think that's going to be it as far as negatives go. So we talked about the guitars, the drums, vocals, structure, time signature. Yeah, I think. All right, let me dive into the. Oh, geez, we're already at an hour. Let me dive into the lyrics for a second, and we'll see if I can make heads or tails of that. I was not wrong about the density of these lyrics. There is a lot here. And interestingly, while there are some callbacks, it's mostly linear. I don't see any idea of verses, and it seems to speak of a linear story, which is interesting. But overall, it seems to be about somebody who never left their hometown while everybody else did, and kind of feels like they missed their opportunity to do so. And they think that they would have had, it's kind of that missing adventure, right? Staying in your hometown is safe, it's comfortable, you know the place, family and friends are nearby if you ever have an issue, that kind of thing. There's safety in staying in your hometown, but there's also a lack of adventure and just sort of that freeing idea of heading out and trying to live somewhere else. Even if it is just a romantic adventure or a romantic idea of adventure, eventually wherever you land will also become your new hometown, and it will become the safety net that your old hometown was. There is an element in here also of a lost love, possibly. So I would say that there are some elements of missing, of incompletion that resonate with the time signature changes, but I don't see anything that I think would necessarily line up perfectly with the 4/4 being more complete. But again, I don't know what lyrics are specifically there. I'm just kind of looking at every stanza and saying, hey, does this have anything to do with completion? A feeling whole? Not really seeing that. There are a lot of references to time, though. The opening stanza says to seal the summer's fate. To seal the summer's fate. There's a mentioning down here somewhere. Oh, one of the stanzas says we'll meet again in cold December. And there's something about autumn. 5 years have passed since your last bike ride. That's not a specific time period, but it does reference time passing in here. What was that other thing? Autumn is referenced somewhere. I don't remember. There's a lot of lyrics here. Interestingly, though, nothing here at the end really screams Christmas to me, so I'm curious why they went for that Christmas homage. Still a bit interested about that. Not even Christmas, just like winter time in general. Not present here at the end at all. So I think my seasonal concept is wrong. But there is still an adherence to focusing on time in the lyrics. Although I'm still not quite sure. I mean, this is part 3, right? Lover's End part 3. So it's very possible that I'm missing a lot of context from 1 and 2, which explains why the story doesn't really make sense to me. Like I said, I'm picking up on these themes. It seems this person stayed in their hometown and they watched it grow and change, and other people left and came back, and he had to explain things to them. Like the thing about the 5 years. I can't even find it now, of course. 5 years have passed since your last bike ride. The city's outsourced and the factory's shutting down. Culture's been boiled down to a chorus. They all can sing, but they've stopped believing the words. So, basically, he stayed where it was comfortable. His friends left. When his friends come back, obviously either their adventure is over or where they decided to go didn't work out and they're coming back to what they do know. They come back and they find that everything's different. There's no more nuance. There's no more work. It almost seems like the place is a ghost town or a ghastly similance. That's not a word. A ghastly visage of what it used to be. You know, it says it doesn't even say the factories are just shutting down. It says the city's been outsourced, not just the work. The city has been outsourced. I mean, that's a pretty powerful notion right there. But yeah, that's kind of my whole vibe here. There's a lot of stuff that references specific events or people or ideas that kind of go over my head. My guess is parts 1 and 2. And there does seem to be a relationship element repeated near the end of the song multiple times, as you know that I love you and you know that it's true. So apparently it is talking about this person that missed out on a relationship possibly, or maybe they were in a relationship and the other person left. Maybe that's who it was. She left and then she came back and he's kind of introducing her around the town or something. And there's definitely this element of longing. Near the end of the track, he says, "Life is but a waiting room, and I guess I'm still waiting there for you." And this kind of idea of waiting for the right time feels like it pops up multiple times. Not only just waiting for the right time to leave the hometown like everybody else did, but also to ask somebody out, or to make the first move on a relationship, or to, you know, help keep the city rolling, and, you know, to become part of the culture and the society rather than sitting back and waiting and then watching it diminish and become a shell of what it used to be. There definitely seems to be this hesitance to make an action and then having the regrets from the hesitance, and that forming into a bunch of regrets that feel like an incomplete experience of life, possibly, which ties in directly into the 7/8 and 3/8 ideas. So I don't know. Maybe somebody can explain the lyrics in full to me. Maybe I just need to go check out parts 1 and 2 of Lover's End. But I'm getting some of the overarching vibes and themes here. I think they do a fantastic job of matching up what's going on with the time signature. I don't know that they match up specifically with the vibe of the song. There are bittersweet and sorrowful elements, but there's also a lot of bit of this song that just feels bright, happy, very complete, beautiful chordal resolutions, and it kind of belies the regret that I really get out of these lyrics. The music does not seem to encompass that the way that the lyrics do. It seems to be dripping in here that the narrator or singer wishes things had been different. And the music, while occasionally leans towards that, has a tinge of that regret or nostalgia, it really doesn't lean into it the way that the lyrics do. And even the end of the song is very strong resolution, very bright, very optimistic. And the final words of the song are, "Your love's got me on the run, but I'm never leaving my hometown." And I guess there is a bit of strong resolution in that, realizing that it's not a missed opportunity, taking control of the situation, saying I understand what I want to do, but I also understand what I'm not going to do. And having an understanding and an acceptance of that is definitely a good resolution to come from the beginning or even the middle, where there seems to be regret laced into the inaction. But I don't know if the song as a whole really vibes with what the lyrics are going for. But again, I'm only reading half the lyrics tops. There's a lot of stuff in here that's kind of going over my head that probably deals more with the narrative. So maybe the music does line up more with the lyrics than I think they do. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what your interpretation of this is, or if you have any interviews with the group that kind of explain what's going on here. I'm eager to read those. Above the comment section is a description box, and there's a link for a Linktree. take you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel. You can pick up some merch, follow me on Twitter, join a Discord server, join the Patreon, and vote on future themes and songs, submit your own special selections, just a bunch of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. Make sure you join back with me tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to look at our final song for Colors Week, and we'll look at a creator's request as we typically do on Fridays. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.